The importance is vitally important. Some people say, I don't have time for office meetings. I don't have time for staff trainings. I don't have time for that. Listen, if you're in a practice, and especially if you own the practice, you can't afford not to.
Welcome to The Focused View, the podcast for eye care professionals across Australia. Brought to you by Optical. In each episode, we bring together leading eye care, optical and business professionals to share valuable insights, practical tips, and the latest trends shaping the optical business landscape. I'm your host, Michael Nasser, and together we'll explore innovative strategies for practice growth, patient care, and business success in the eye care industry. Whether you're starting your career, managing a practice, or just looking to stay ahead of the field, The Focused View is your source for inspiration and knowledge. Well, you speak about that optometrist, or you refer to them as doctors. It seems like he's in a leadership position, and he
Yes.
obviously, you say that they do have training well incorporated, and I'm sure that's quite positive for them. What's the relationship between, I guess, successful training methods in the store and leadership, and does that cross over, and as well as motivating staff? And what are your thoughts on leadership in general within optical practices with your experience, and how that all ties into motivating staff? And is it something that can be trained? Do you have courses on that? And I guess, what are some of the insights that you can shed on that topic?
Of course, we have courses on that.
Awesome.
Yes, we do. We certainly do. The importance is vitally important. Some people say, I don't have time for office meetings. I don't have time for staff trainings. I don't have time for that. Listen, if you're in a practice, and especially if you own the practice, you can't afford not to have those trainings because the reality is running any sort of team, even outside of optometry, the studies are vast. And the amount of influence that team trainings and team meetings have on the overall influence of the business, right? You don't have to go very far to see all of the different types of studies and everything done with businesses, large and small, on the success of having team trainings and team meetings. Now, leadership is where that needs to come from. And whether the leader in the team looks like, a doctor owner, or as an optician owner, we have a lot of practices that are owned by not even optometrists because it's a lucrative business. There's one of our big practices. They're owned by two brothers that are both attorneys.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep.
Because it's a very lucrative business when you know how to properly run it. Now, you need to also have the proper chain of command set up. You can't just have the doctor and then, 5 team members and go, okay, here you guys go do your job. Here you go. And not really have any sort of structure as to overall expectation, overall performance. And really, if the doctor doesn't want to be dealing with the day-to-day or the optometrist or owner doesn't want to be dealing with the day-to-day issues, then having a chain of command on who needs to deal with that and where that authority lies is very important. And one of our courses called the leadership course, we talk about the importance of not just having, monthly meetings with your team as a whole, like big group meetings, make sure everyone's on the same page, talk about the issues that are happening, talk about the good things. So many times we leave out the good things. Talk about the good things that are happening. But it is very important for the team leader, whoever that may be, the team leader to have quarterly check-ins individually with every team member. It's vitally important. Because, and we have all, the little forms and things that you fill out, because think about a school year for an elementary student, right? For a child. If you, dropped your kid off at school when school started for the school year and you picked him up at the end of the school year and you're like, hey, why do you have all these bad grades? What's going on? Well, but there were no check-ins. That's why we have, quarters. That's why we have parent-teacher conferences. That's why we have those things. So you can have these check-ins on how your child is doing. And then in today's society, you get a darn text message every time a grade comes in, which drives me crazy. So, you have kids and you're like, oh my gosh, there's too many grades. So the reality though, is we do this. It seems silly to do that with, elementary kids, right? It seems like a silly concept. However, do we do that with our teens? Many do, where we don't really have check-ins on their overall performance. And so what I recommend for practices to do as a whole, for the office to do as a whole, is to have leadership mark out a half a day And everyone, they meet one-on-one with every person. So everyone has a meeting the same time every quarter with leadership. And what's beautiful about that is it causes leadership to be in the mindset as they're prepping for this.
Mm.
Okay, here's what we need done. Here are big picture issues or goals for the practice. Here's where we're going to be meeting with each of these individual people and be able to trickle that down. The reality is that it also allows for the team member to go, okay, March 1st is coming up. So on the 1st of March, I know I'm going to be going back to talk with the leadership, whoever that may be. It might be one person, might be a few people. I'm going to go back and talk with leadership, and I want to make sure I'm bringing this issue up to them.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful is when you have this training structure of meeting in with them every quarter, it stops a lot of the griping because people feel heard, right? Or they know when they can feel heard, at a very specific time where I'm going to get the owner's attention at this time. So when I do, I'm going to make sure and have these things written down. And then as the leader also that we encourage is, tell the team member the good things that they're contributing in the office. If you can't think of any, you need a new team member. But tell them the good things that they're doing in the office. Tell them the things that you would like for them to work on. And then tell them the items that you would like or ask them, what support do you need from me in order to get these things to happen? Right? It creates a level of assuredness from the team member that you have their best, intentions at heart. And maybe they're like, you know what, I'm just not really that comfortable with selling anti-reflective treatment. So when you say that you want me to get my anti-reflective treatment percentage up this high, I'm really not that comfortable with selling it. So maybe I need more, it causes them to reflect on where the issue is.
Yeah, it's almost like, you got structured training and this is structured leadership in some ways, or structured, I guess, performance reviews. And I guess that probably speaks to something a little bit different too. But in doing it in that fashion and having it structured, it allows you then to be strategic about what you're doing and how you're improving and noticing what areas, you need to focus on as a leader within an optometry practice and I guess the different things. Do you find that, I mean, what I tend to find is that they're good to set up. They're very hard to maintain. And what's the motivation like with staff? Do you think that people, I guess, like that, or in your experience, do they not like it? Or I guess, how can you speak to its relevance with motivation in particular?
Yeah. So the relevance with motivation is that people are motivated by money. Okay?
Yeah.
None of us are
Yeah.
working for free.
No.
Okay.
That's
If you're
very
working
true.
for free,
Yep.
good for you. That is not
Yep.
the case for most of us.
No.
So the reality is people are motivated by money. Now, I don't like the idea of people getting an annual raise for time served. It's not a prison. This is not time served. No, you get a raise based upon performance. And so what's beautiful is when you start setting out, and we recommend that you set up these structured times, because yes, it's usually good when you first do it and then it starts to dwindle off. No. Every year you set up when these quarterly meetings are for the entire year.
Yeah.
Don't let it go by. You do it every year for the entire year. You have it blocked out on your schedule. Then when you're there, there's no excuse as to why it can't be done, right? So for the first one, you say, okay, here's where we're going to be. Here are our goals. How can I support you? Okay, if we are able to get these goals done, this is what it means for the practice, and this is what it can mean for you monetarily. Okay. Now, you don't set little tiny goals. You set achievable goals, but they need to be big ones, right?
Yeah.
So when you go about checking in with them the next 3 months, you say, okay, Sally, we have met this goal. You're doing really, really great. The other two, let's talk about how we can improve that performance. So you have to meet all three in order to have the monetary thing that we discuss. So you're getting here. So let's keep this one up. Now, here's the next one that we're going to focus on. Here's the other thing. We also encourage that, and this is proven in a lot of studies as well, that when you set their goals, items that you want them to improve on, when you set these goals, they're not just all about the practice. We encourage that one of the goals is based upon something to better them as a person, something, as far as betterment books or support teams, or putting together something that, is beneficial in the community. So they have that community influence.
Do you find that's better coming from the staff member themselves, or is that something initiative the practice should take?
Yes, I do find it better coming from the staff member themselves, but talk with them about what that should be and then give them ideas. Because the first time you set them down, they're going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to
That's what
go
I can
work
imagine
out
happening.
more. Maybe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can give them certain ideas, and we give this to you in the leadership course of all these different types of things that you want them to do to make them feel better as a human, and for them to, because what happens is when they start doing these things, people who take the time to do community service, to take the time to, make a difference in somebody else's life, maybe it's just going and visiting an old folks home a few
Mm,
times, it starts to soften your soul, it
mm,
makes you a
mm,
better person. And what
mm.
happens is the reciprocating part of this is so many times in optometry, in our practices, I should say, unfortunately, again, I think it's maybe a societal thing of today's thing, it's just an employee.
Yeah.
We are creating, these are humans, these are not just employees. And so how can we tap into that human element? And what we have found that is really, really powerful, some of you might think it's all woo woo and you don't want to spend time getting to know everyone and everything else. If you do, if you do spend time to connect on a human level with your team, this is going to resonate with your
Yeah.
patients. Your patients are going to feel this, and this is going to have that deeper connection. Okay. The other thing is that now these team members are going to want to perform for you because they're feeling heard, they're feeling they're listened to. One of the big things that these Gen Z kids that are coming in, I say
Mm,
kids, but that are now in the
yeah.
workforce, where they're, one of the biggest things is they say that they want to have more purpose. They don't want to just be answering
Mm,
the phones at the front. They don't want to just be doing these things. And so that's why a lot of them will change from job to job to job every 4, 5, 6 months, because they're not feeling a purpose. And so to create that human connection is something they've never had.
mm,
And so we're seeing a lot of decreased turnover in the younger demographic with these type of connection things, because they're feeling heard. They're feeling like they have a say. And then they're feeling the betterment, because, how many kids these days have gone, and served food at a soup kitchen, or
yeah.
gone to do things that, make their community better or something like that. So it's really powerful and a different way to connect that I
Yeah.
encourage optometrists and optical owners to think about.
Yeah, I think it's sort of taking a step out of I mean, it's all focusing on the business, but we're looking at other aspects that affect the individuals that work within our store and how we can make it a better environment for everybody. And we've touched on training being critical and product knowledge and soft skills, but then the individual themselves are just as important, and understanding what gets them going and
Yeah, what makes
ensuring
them
and
tick.
100% and making sure that they have growth, because everyone is looking to grow in some ways. I mean, we're looking to grow our financials, we're looking to grow the business, but we as individuals are looking to grow as well. And I think as a leader of a store, or as a leader of a couple of practices, whatever that may be, if you can identify with what your staff are looking for and you can feed that to them, then you're satisfying them holistically, which obviously will decrease the turnover rates and will create that better environment, because your patients will feel that too. Because if your staff feel cared for, well, they in turn will pass that to the patient. So I totally get that.
That's
And
right.
it is a different way to think. And that's for sure. Like
Yes.
it's, not a lot of people will think in this way. And I love that you've got training that touches on these points. And it goes back to that initial point where, this is not the sort of stuff you're going to be talking about while you're doing your Cert 4 or your bachelor's in optometry, or your master's or whatever that may be. But can you speak, we haven't spoken about Spexy itself, and what does the course look like, and what are the components of it, and how is it rolled out? Like, how do people actually learn from it?
So we are a membership service. So we have 2 levels of membership. The main level of membership, we call it Spexy Plus. The Spexy Plus membership has the opportunity for, think of it like Netflix
Right.
for optical learning. That's what you think. So everything that you could possibly want to know about refinement in sales, refinement in your new hire training, just like you would go into Netflix and watch a comedy, you could go in and watch a new hire training.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that would be, a series that's about the new hires is about a 5-hour series that we have in
Okay.
there. So just like you would go to Netflix to watch that, you would go into Spexy and watch that. If you needed some insight on leadership, we have that series on leadership is about a 3-hour series. I think it's a 5-part series. So just like you would go watch a mini series in Netflix, you go watch a mini series here. So, and it's available to the entire practice underneath the cost of the Spexy Plus membership, which is really great. So then we also have the opportunity, there's a little bit of a rollout, I guess, back to your original question. There's a bit of a rollout we encourage everyone to go through the Spexy 101 course, which is the foundational,
Yeah.
mainly because everything we just spoke to, the fact that there's not a lot of, often there are things missed in today's trainings
Yeah.
methods.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why. And then there are different types of routes that you can go as far as going into more of a sales training, as far as going into developing goals for your teams. We have a series in there called the Optical Sell Smart series. And what that one does is it allows for your team to be able to have basically team meetings set up for your leadership. So they're like, hey, everybody, watch this episode. And then I teach them how to do this thing, and the skill is implemented. And then on top of it, we've been talking a lot of these soft skills and,
Yes.
the personal relationships and all of these things. But I'm a numbers nerd. We said at the beginning,
Yeah.
and I'm all about your practice making a ton of money. And so what we do is we then within that course is we take it and we quantify, okay, what does anti-reflective treatment, 100% anti-reflective treatment looks like for your practice? How do we incentivize your team to run off of that growth? Then the next month we'll teach training on refinement of answering the phone. So everyone in the office should know the proper way to handle communication on the
Mm.
phone. And you would not believe the amount of practices that I have called in the series that go, hello, thank you for calling Dr. Smith's optometry practice. Oh my gosh, you sound
Yeah.
like you're getting tortured. Would you
Mm.
stop?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
so the refinement in that and being able to get someone on the phone, off the phone, but still make them feel very special at the same time. Then the next one will be another growth one on getting what we call butts in the chair.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's how we make our money, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a whole team training on that. So we have different courses and different series within the membership to allow for you to be able to go in there and learn these skills, implement them into your offices, and then be able to track the monetary benefits for your office, which is where, of course, it matters the most.
That's what I love about what I've seen with your training programs. It is super relevant and it is super practical. And you've got so often with training, it's like, well, what's the end outcome of it? Why would I do it? Whereas from what I've seen with your courses, there is that clear, and I mean, people obviously will go and check it out and there'll be links in the show notes and that. And I mean, I'm just speaking from the experience of what I've seen. And from that point of view, it seems super relevant. And there aren't many resources out there that are readily available. I don't know about you, but we've got what we refer to as sort of not buying groups, but they're like groups. I think there's Pecker and there's IDOC in the States in particular,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we've got some group much smaller scale, obviously, but groups that are similar, and they do provide the training, but it is depending on the nature of your stores. Not everyone's able to get access to that. And so there isn't anything that's
Right.
communally available. So something like this is I reckon super valuable from that point of view.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, and as far as, the part on relevance, there's also trainings and courses in there on social media and being able to maximize that. You had
Yeah.
mentioned that a little bit earlier. Am I
You've
jumping
taken the word,
ahead?
yeah, you've taken the word, because that's, I think, because we're talking about training now. I
Um,
think the next part of it, and I'm happy to transition to that now if we're,
Sure.
in
Yeah.
terms of
Because
training,
I
is
can speak to that.
correct. Well, that's because I did want to touch on social media, and I know that's how I first came about yourself and some of the things that you were doing. It was about social media, as I touched on at the beginning. So I guess if we were to look at that as a bit of a theme and maybe a bit of a marketing kind of a perspective, like how can practices leverage social media and digital presence for growth, and what insights do you have in the experience that you've seen? And I'm not sure how many stores you work with across the states, but I know it's numerous. So
Yeah.
the insights are definitely well qualified.
Yes. Yes. We have over 1,200 users, which is beautiful because let's just be honest, as humans, not everybody uses everything, but it still
Mm,
gives us a really good, because it's so large, it still gives us a really good representation of those
yeah.
offices that are using each of the courses and going through each of the series
Mm,
to be able for us to get feedback on how it's working and how it's being implemented. So
mm,
all of that being said, one of the trainings and series that we have is called Socially Spexy. And what it does is it taps into this idea of being more authentically yourself in your digital presence online. I can go through many optometry clinics and opticals of sorts and go through their Instagram, and I can tell you if they have somebody hired to do their social media for them. The reality is that social media is definitely a huge opportunity to be a paid opportunity, right? For
mhm,
you to be able to go out and reach more of your community. However, it is not going to do you any darn good if they don't see what you are all about. But like, look into your own personal feed, right? The people that you follow. Do you follow a lot of offices or a lot of businesses that just give a lot of stats on things and that just give did you know that this holiday is the most dangerous holiday to eyes? Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. And nobody certainly cares that you're going to be closed for an office meeting. The reality is that what happens is if you look back into your social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, if you look back into your social media and look back to that image a year or 2 years ago where you had an office training or you had a holiday party or something like that in your team, and you took a picture of your team, I guarantee you that you will have double the amount of likes on that one photo than you do of all of the other ones that have nothing to do with the people in your office. Because that's what people are coming to see is they want to see the interaction of what you are all about. Now, here's another hard thing is that we have seen so much in our society, the ridicule that some people get for being on social media.
Yeah.
Especially like celebrities and things like that. And I'll tell you this, you're not a celebrity. And so you're not going to be ridiculed as
Yeah.
hard as those people. And so people's out of fear go, oh, I don't want to put myself out there because I
Yeah.
don't want to get ridiculed. The reality is that the only people that are following your office are the people that have come to your office. And the idea is that you want to be able to reach out to your local community.
And I think there's a bit of a fear that when things are done in a social media context, they've got to be perfect. It's like my hair has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. It's like, and I know because I fall victim to the same type of thinking. And there was a line that I read or saw somewhere, and I've always kept it in my head whenever it's about, and whether it's even publishing a podcast or doing anything, it's like done is better than perfect.
That's right.
So as
That's
long as
right.
you
And
do it, it doesn't matter if
yes,
it's perfect or not. Done is better than perfect, and just focus on that.
yes.
And I think a lot of people get caught up because maybe they're not a celebrity, but they probably think that, yeah, they're going to laugh at this or they're going to laugh at that or they're going to make fun. And it's probably just it's an innate human reaction of a
That's
fear of,
exactly right.
but you kind of got to get over it. And the people that do follow you are following you because they want to see you. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't follow you, I think. And if you can overcome that mindset, then it can unlock the power of social media.
That's exactly right. So I also am what I call a recovering perfectionist. And for all the recovering perfectionists out there, because I feel like there's a lot of us in the optometric field, if you haven't yet read Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, go out of your way to get it. It'll change your life and it'll help you to reflect on how much your perfectionism is really holding you back. And the thing is especially in independent optometry, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are usually out more in society, and we have this fear of being judged, right?
Mm.
So for myself, let me give you one of my, what I call come to Jesus meetings. I went, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
where we had just started Spexy. We didn't have, we had less than 100 members on our service, but again, still very much a perfectionist. And I was known enough in the optical community for my speaking that I'm not just going to willy nilly go out there and act like a ding dong. Like that's not what I do. That's not in my personality type. Right. So here I am recording some of these lessons that are no longer on Spexy because they were
All right.
old recordings and old things. But here I was recording these lessons and I'm doing recording and editing and all of this other stuff. Well, my now husband, we were engaged at the time. He was going through there. And when you're recording things, okay, especially in a video setting, you say what you're going to say and then you go, okay, shoot. And then you
Yeah.
fix it. Right. And I would, of course, always edit those out because that is the perfectionist in me. Well, the reality is that my now husband was editing because I was like, I don't have time to edit this. Will you please help me? And he goes, yeah, sure. And so he edits it out and I start to see, and then it's posted and everything else. And I start to see these stats go up on this one lesson in this course. And I'm like, that's the one that Rook edited. Why is that one good? He's not even a good editor. What in the world? And so I go in there and he has left in there my mess ups, right? Me going, okay, so when you walk into your optometry, when you walk into your optometry practice, this is what you're going to say, right? And so when I say it like that, it becomes so much more human.
Mm.
People were watching it like crazy and rewatching it and showing other people. Now, the first thing in my perfectionist head was, oh, wait, they're watching it because they're making fun, right? That's the first thing that went through my perfectionist head. But then I realized they weren't necessarily even rewatching, because we can see where people watch certain parts. They weren't rewatching that. They were rewatching the training part. But because it was so authentically portrayed, it made the learning so much easier.
Yeah.
So I will say the same thing and challenge you to do the same thing when you get on your social media. Get in front of your people and, start to showcase a new frame that you have in the office. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you're up there and you're like, okay, so we've got this new frame. I don't know, what would you call it? A teal, a green? I don't know. Okay. So anyway, but this frame
Mm,
will fit fabulous and it's
mm,
made for blah, 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 blah. So
mm,
you don't have to be sitting there like, okay,
mm.
this frame from Kirk and Kirk is going to be like, don't do that.
It's got
Be
to be
fun and
natural.
be interactive. That's
Yeah.
right.
It's almost like you
That's
got to
right.
pretend like the camera's not there, the phone's not there. Just pick it up and just pretend like you're talking to a colleague about this frame and things like that, right? Like just a bit of
Yes.
a mindset pivot. Like just think about it differently, and it all of a sudden becomes different.
Yes. So one easy trick that I have developed for offices to be able to get used to doing this is to have the person that you're most comfortable with in the office sitting right here. Okay. That's the
Mm,
person that I'm looking at. And then, or I'm sorry, have the camera sitting right here. And the person that I'm looking at is going to be right here. Okay.
hmm
And I'm going to describe this frame to the person, even though it's recording right here. When you're looking into a camera, it's hard for a lot of people to get over that. So a little
Yeah.
trick to get you used to it is to start just explaining this to a patient or a friend or a colleague that's there at the office and start explaining this frame to them or start talking to them. If you're the doctor, if you're the optometrist, start talking to them about common eye things that you see in the
Right.
office. Start talking to them about, fake eyelashes and the conversations that you have all the time back in the
You're
exam
normal.
room.
Yeah.
Your normal conversations, just start repeating those and say, hey, I just wanted to bring this up because we had a patient that came. I'm trying to look over here.
So the camera is basically looking, you're not looking at the camera directly, you're looking to the left or to the right of it. And that's where the person would
Yes,
be who you're talking to. So you're not staring at the camera directly. You're actually focusing a little bit to the left or to the right and speaking to that person as if you normally would.
that's right. That's right. And what it allows for you to do is to be able to become comfortable seeing yourself on camera and hearing yourself on camera. And then what ends up happening is then you turn to the camera because you've done it a few times. And you can now start talking to the camera and start giving your education on taking a brilliant retinal photo and how beautiful it can be for
Yeah.
your patient care. You can start having that conversation, with the people knowing that they're hearing you on the other side. And what's going to happen is you'll start to have patients that'll start following you that will then go, hey, Michael, when was following you on social media the other day, you were saying something about dry eye.
Mm,
And I didn't even realize that I have dry eye, but I think I
mm,
might. Like,
mm,
let's talk
mm.
about some of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it
Yeah.
starts up some conversations. But the back to leveraging social media, that's with your existing patient base. And your patients are already your patients right there, right?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about leveraging social media is it is free advertising in your local community when used properly. So we teach this in that Socially Spexy series. But one thing that's important is you have to first build up, have some posts in there that are about you, right? That's the authenticity part. You
hmm
need that built up. But the
hmm
reality is you can reach out to other small businesses in your community and you can tap into their followers very, very easily. Run a promo. We encourage monthly promos on the Socially Spexy series where we encourage that meet up with that little coffee shop that's right up the street and do some sort of cross promotion with them. And we've
Yeah.
all seen it before where you see, oh, we're a weekend getaway at the
It,
winter lodge of whatever. Like this one, follow this one. And you're like, yeah,
it is. It's such a good point. It's
yes,
such a good
yeah.
point.
So the opportunity is leveraging social media is very, very powerful, but there's no point in doing it. And there's certainly no point in investing marketing dollars in it if you don't have something that's authentically showcasing what it is that's unique about your office.
I think a lot of people are confused about the role of social media for their store. I mean, obviously, it's been around for a while now, but I know when it first
Hmm.
came out, everyone just thought it was the bee's knees, and it was, everyone's going to love it, and it's going to work, and it's going to bring people into my store. But I guess as social media has developed over the years, and to be fair, there's Facebook and Instagram as the two main, I guess, players in the
Right.
space. How would you put them into a context with regards to explaining to a store I guess how it should be thought about in their practice? I mean, it's not a tool that you're going to get a massive ROI on, right? Like, it's more of a, I've always sort of
Well, if
thought
it's
it's
free,
what,
the
yeah,
the eye is a very, very big. Right?
potential, but it's more about, I
I guess
think,
time.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
a time component, but I think it's more of a PR mechanism, I mean, PR is a part of marketing, but it's more like it's just getting yourself out there, and so that you're in their minds at certain points. So like you said with the dry eye example, you just plant a seed and then it's like, oh, hold on, maybe I do have. And you've got to build that consistently too, because that's the other key part of it. I feel like you can't just do it once or twice. It's got to be something and I'm sure your training would go through these points. And like with the training, with the meetings that you can start off, but you've got to just have that plan. So
You got to have the
I guess
consistency. Yeah.
consistency, it can't stop, it can't ever stop. So how would you proposition it to a store as to how they should do it, why they should do it? And I guess the best way to ensure that it is successful for them.
Yes. So you have to make sure and come up with a schedule, have a plan, right? And that's the hardest part for a lot of offices. That's why in the Socially Spexy series, we give you a literal
Yeah.
schedule every month. So
Yeah.
that's great. So that's the first thing. So make sure you have a plan, whether you develop it or have us help you. You have a plan, right? Because it makes it much easier to actually implement. Once you have that plan, you can set aside or have someone in your office set aside, a few hours to get all the video and the images and everything else all ready to go to throw up on the social media platform. So with that being said, that's one of the biggest values. Now, I want you to think of, especially ladies, if you look through your social media feed and you might have some friends or whatever that work at like some med spas, or you might have some sort of like med spas where they do, your facials or nails or Botox. They're giving services. That's all they offer is
Mhm.
services. So many doctors, I want you to have that in the back of your mind, because so many optometrists will sit here and go, well, I'm in a, medical optometry office. I don't have anything to go on social media. Listen, if those med spa people can do it, y'all can do it, because the med spa people only have services that they're offering. In optometry, we have our optometry services and they are vast that we are offering, right? But we also have something that they don't have. We have a massive amount of retail and fashion and sexiness and awesomeness out in our opticals that is not being utilized. So we encourage in your posts that you have the clinical side of things that you're promoting, which is to some people the harder part. We make it easy for you, but then also having the side of things with, being able to show off some new frames, put up a poll and go, which is better? Which one do you like better? This one or this one? And try them on and talk about them a little bit and start to get that influence. Now, what's important, going back to that, is the clinical side and the side with being able to showcase what's out there in your inventory. In doing both of these, so many offices kind of get stuck in a rut of this, with basically like paralysis of being able to think of new ideas, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hard. But if you just go through your social media and start thinking of this, or you have a plan from us, maybe you should give a tour of your office. Maybe you should go around to each person like you're a patient, walk up to the front desk and be like, hi, okay, tell me what's great about your job today. Okay, tell me what's great about your job today. Tell me what you do for patients, those types of things. So there's a lot of different dynamics that when you start really sitting down and thinking about the social media presence, it allows for your patients to have an inside scoop on what's going on in your optical. I mean, how many restaurants, I'm a foodie, but how many restaurants, times you go to a restaurant where you pull it up and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that. Looks so great on Instagram, right? You have the opportunity for your patients to be doing the same thing in your office. Like, oh yes, look at Michael, the optometrist. He looks like such a nice guy and he seems very knowledgeable. Oh, there's Kayla, the optical dispenser, and she seems really nice. Oh, and they make really good decisions with some of these cute frames. People think that way. That's what they do. And so if you've got an actual social media out there, you're able to leverage that and it'll ultimately leverage your presence within your community. It's really powerful, really powerful stuff.
I guess some basics of it, when it comes to like the amount of times that a store should post, like, is there a cadence in particular that you think is, and I'm sure your training would go through it too, but for those out there that are just sort of want some initial insights, is it something that should be done once a day, twice a day, once a week, once a month? Like how often should people be posting?
Good question. We encourage you to be posting 3 times a week. With that being said, you can't just be posting 3 times a week. The social media platforms are meant to be an interactive community. So you want to be posting 3 times a week, but we encourage offices to spend one morning a week, like just have it scheduled where Sally goes back and she gets on the office's social media and she starts replying to everybody who's replied or
Okay.
starts liking everyone who's liked all of your stuff. And then you need to go back. And if somebody follows you, don't be a punk, follow them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they want to be
You
your
got,
friend, you be their friend too. So many offices, they have, I don't know, 100 followers and they're following 4 people. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why it stops right there, because you're not having that community engagement. The algorithm is set up for community engagement. The
okay.
other thing that we encourage you to do is start following a lot of your local, like I said, coffee shops, florists,
Businesses.
businesses, especially the small businesses, to be
Yeah.
able to start following them and commenting on them as your practice, just to show yourself in the community. Because again, the algorithms are set to be a communal type thing. So the more involved you are, the higher up you're going to start being showcased in a lot of your practice, in a lot of your communities. Wes, one thing I want to say also to that is that using local influencers, okay, it's not like, back in the day when you used to have to pay, hey, I'm going to pay this person $50
Mm,
or $50, $500 to come to my town and talk with me about this thing. You don't have to do that anymore. You
mm.
can just say, hey, and you reach out to one of the influencers that you say, we have one of our cities called Boise, is named Boise. And so we have a This is Boise thing. So you can have the This is Boise person, because
Mm.
you can just message them on social and say, hey, we would love to give you an eye exam so you can see what our
Right.
office is like. Would you mind, or someone in your family mind coming in so we can kind of show you what the experience is like? We would love to take care of you, blah, 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 blah. That, my friend, is perfect marketing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what they're going to do is be able to go out there and show you all those things. Now, in some situations, you have to have it branded. There are certain regulations in certain areas. I'm not getting into that. I'm just telling
No.
you the opportunities so you can
Yeah.
get into
Yeah.
that. But
Absolutely.
but you want to make sure and follow your local regulations as far as what the social standards are. But this is a huge untapped market. Even just, I'm going to say this really, really awesomely. When you were sitting there and you're doing a dispense for a patient and they have the cutest frames that they just got, and you can say, hey, Kayla, those frames look really cute on you. Would you mind, taking a selfie and posting that on your social and
Yeah.
tagging us in it? Do you know how big that is?
That's,
Because
yeah. Yeah.
now all of Kayla's 7,000 teeny bopper followers that she
Mm.
has all saw where she just got those frames.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, that is a
Yeah.
huge opportunity. And there's no regulation against that. Good
Why don't you
opportunity.
think people do that more often? Like, what is it you think that holds them back when you speak to stores and you speak to practices?
The biggest thing that holds them back is that in the optometric field, all of us wear way too many hats and we got a bunch of other crap going on all the time. And so we
Mm.
forget, first
Mm.
off. Secondly, people are afraid of being told no, or looking like, oh,
Yeah.
I was asking for it. Yeah, you're asking for it because it's big for your business.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
so we have some offices that, will do a thing where they, incentivize each of the team members and say, hey, if you, ask somebody to, go ahead and post something on their social media, if they happen to mention you, we'll buy you a coffee or something
Yeah.
like that. And so
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I'll do anything for a well, not anything, almost
Yeah.
anything for a coffee.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that it allows for, oh, I got 4 coffees this week.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So that's something that's really exciting,
Mm.
because now when I, as the patient, go to post something and I'll say, yeah, my optometrist Michael was super awesome. And that is so much more influential. And they can even just post it on their story. They don't have to
Yeah.
make an actual post. So it just runs on there for 24 hours. But again, you are now tapped into all of that patient's friends, which is
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of people, which can go above and beyond what you can ever spend in marketing dollars. Yeah.
And even thinking about it now, it is such a powerful tool and it is so underutilized, even though people probably know the power of it now. And it just comes from that lack of maybe whatever that is, that confidence just to get out there and do it. So definitely if there are people listening and they're motivated to do it, I'd say just jump out and do it. And done is better than perfect. It's so powerful. And it's just amazing that people don't use it more and more. And I think about it for my own businesses too, and need to be doing a lot more in that space. So
We do it a lot. We even
yeah,
have like a marketing director, and she's great.
yeah,
And there's so many opportunities that we're like,
yeah,
hey, we can be doing this and we can be
yeah,
doing this. It can get rather overwhelming. But
yeah,
like you said, done is better than perfect. Is that
yeah.
right? It's done better than
Yeah, that's
perfect.
it.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
done is better than
Yeah. And
perfect.
so done is better than perfect. So it doesn't have to, you don't
Just
have to
do it.
do every single thing, but at least you're doing something. And once you start
Correct.
doing something, then you can build on that. But you can't,
Yeah,
it's hard to build on nothing. You got to
yeah.
have something out there.
one of the parts of conversations that I like to have is sort of, speaking to people that obviously have insights and then trying to get them to crystal ball what might happen. And obviously with a lot of what you do, it's very training focused. And I guess where do you see training and I guess from the work that you're doing, where are the future opportunities in training and optometry training in particular that you see things going like, and what does the future look like when it comes to how we train and what we're training? Are we going to just be doing what we've been doing, or do you see things like AI coming in, or do you see other, I guess, influences there that that are mindful or worth noting at this point?
I see AI coming in not as a fact of replacing the human part of it, but allowing the human part to be more efficient by replacing some of the monotonous things in the office. So, like, I can see, I know it's happening, but the AI that's coming into the industry that will start to, be able to remind your patients of their orders coming in, or to give them time checks on, it's been this day, it's at this process at the lab. It's stuff that would take way too much time for us to call every single patient and let them know what's happening.
Right.
But things that society is used to I ordered a pair of pants the other day and I got a notification after I ordered it. I got a notification after it shipped. I got a notification that its tracking is on the way here. I got a notification that it's
Yeah.
going to be shipped today, or that it was going to arrive at my house today. Like, it's kind of a
Wow.
lot, but
Yeah.
that's what society is used to. And so I see the opportunity for optometry, for AI to be very beneficial that way in communication with our patients as far as tracking their orders and things like that, and making their visits more efficient. I also see, and which is why I talk about it so heavily. So,
Mm.
no- not to, beat on the topic again, but the importance of having those, soft skills and those communication trainings and those types of things are so much more important than ever, because of the fact that we have online to compete with and these big box to compete with. And it's not like it's something new. It's
No.
just they're going to become leveraged to be faster, cheaper, all of these other things. And so we have to stay steadfast in what it is that makes us us and makes us unique from them. And the one thing that they can't duplicate is that one-on-one human
Yeah,
experience. And so that's where I see most of our niche really coming to
for sure.
fruition to be able to blossom. So that's where I see the biggest things there as far as future in optometry. I've seen a lot of big changes with, VC groups and things like that, that
Yep.
at one big time were the big scary thing. And now some of them are failing.
Yes.
Good old
Yes.
tried and true independent optometry is working out.
Well,
So
I'm sure it
yeah.
happens at a bigger scale in the States than what it is here, but it's a little bit similar here. And the essence of what they do is they take out what the independent really means. And although they think that they're not, and yes, then opportunity sort of presents sort of as things develop in that regard. So what we've spoken about a lot today is connection and the human side, and whether it's through training, whether it's through social media, whether it's as independents, we have the ability to really be one-on-one and be personal, and it is the superpower of our industry, well, the independent part of our industry, which is massive, I still believe, and it's only growing.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love having this conversation. And I was super excited to have it because I know we'd be talking a lot about these particular things that are skills that aren't necessarily discussed about collectively very often. But, when you speak to stores individually, you do see elements of this come through. But it's just because there isn't many platforms that do things like this or that allow these types of conversations. So again, why I was so excited
Yeah.
to do it. As we wrap up today's chat, and I really appreciated having you on and all your thoughts, what are some final thoughts that you'd have or advice that you'd have for optometry professionals, whether they're dispensers, whether they're, retail staff, whether they're optometrists, based on your experience and what you know? What are some thoughts you'd leave with them?
The biggest thing that I think would be the most important to go home with is to understand, and I believe that I would assume that all of us believe that independent optometry is where it's at, right? Independent optometry is where we can best take care of our patients, best connect with our patients, have a beautiful business that helps to support our community. And understanding that belief is something that I think is really powerful for going forward, maybe into 2025, really thinking about what makes us unique. How can we build on that? And in today's society, let's leverage the knowledge that's out there, in online platforms,
Mm,
in our communities, and being able to make a plan to actually make a difference. Because here's the thing, independent optometry is not going to become all that it can be by just standing by and doing the same thing you did last year,
mm.
right? your independent practice has the opportunity to grow immensely with all of these different resources that are out there, with your different groups that you're a part of. I would strongly encourage to look at, we often think about new things in this new year, to look at your 2025 calendar or a plan for this year and go, okay, these are the different things that we're going to do this year. I'm going to empower my team with this type of training. I'm going to make it a really strong point to make sure that my team knows that I'm here for them. Or I'm going to do something different this year and do some more self-development things with my team. Or I'm going to make sure and have fun with my team
Mm.
this year. So many doctors get so caught up in the day-to-day that they don't focus on the fun part of,
Yeah.
we have a group of people. Let's make it
Mm.
fun and exciting. So anyway,
Mm.
back to wrap it up, I think the overall focus is that with independent optometry, we can go by and stay on the same track that we have been. But for 2025, I think the biggest thing to take home will be to come up with a plan of how you're going to make things different. Because you can't do anything unless you have a plan to do so.
Yeah.
One of my favorite speakers is Eddie Pinheiro. And he was talking about how his friend had questioned him and said, hey, what does your perfect day look like? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know what my perfect day looks like. And he's like, well, then how are you ever supposed to have one if you don't know? Like, what does your perfect look like? And if you have that, then you've got it all. So if you can come up with a plan, then you got it all.
Well, that's been a massive take home as well. It's all about the structure and plan. I think it's a perfect time to take stock and start to build out those plans and start to think about things and be strategic. And hopefully this episode and the insights that you've shared have given people some ideas to get started on that. And obviously, if they do want to reach out and they do want to find out more about you, what's the best ways that they can contact you and find out more?
Yeah. So our website is bspexy.com. That's BESPEXY, bspexy.com. On there, we have got our email address at protip@bspexy. If you want it to come directly to me, my assistant and I go through my emails because I get a lot of them, but it's just Kayla, Kayla @bspexy.com. So we love to be able to help independent optometry. So
yeah, and we'll put some details in the show notes, and you can also reach out to me if anyone has any particular questions about today's episode or anything that Kayla and I have discussed. But Kayla, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know it's Wednesday evening over there and it's Thursday morning here. So thanks for your time and thanks for sharing your insights. It's been great having you on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate being here.
Stay connected by subscribing to The Focused View and visiting our website, www.thefocusedview.com.au, for additional resources and episode summaries. We look forward to your company again in our next episode. Until then, keep focused. I'm Michael Nasser. Bye for now.